Hey, what's up, everyone? So, I want to get down to it right now. I want to talk about this UCLA and South Carolina game that happened yesterday because, boy, oh boy, that was another, I would say, Stanford versus South Carolina type of game yesterday. Because you remember about a week ago or so, Stanford played South Carolina, and South Carolina almost got their butt beat. So yesterday, when I watched this South Carolina versus UCLA game, even though I'm from LA, but I was still rooting for South Carolina. But if UCLA would have won, I wouldn't have been upset. But South Carolina has some competition again. To me, I feel like they needed that. They need a team that's going to match in their level. So I was glad that UCLA was making them play hard. So with UCLA, I have a favorite player on that team. I like how Kiki Rice plays. She's a great player. She's a freshman, and she's already playing like she's a senior already for the WNBA. So she has a good future ahead of her. Yeah, I can see her, in the WNBA down the line. So I would keep a lookout for her because she's the future. She's on the rise for sure. But UCLA, they have a pretty good squad. From watching the game yesterday, they have a good team. So that's a team to look out for in the future. You never know. They may go to the Final Four, or they may make it all the way to playing for that championship trophy. It may be UCLA versus South Carolina, but that was a tough game for South Carolina. They made South Carolina play some ball again, because that did remind me of when South Carolina played Stanford, and UCLA was coming at them. They were coming at them because I would say at least about the first half, UCLA was beating them. They was not playing with South Carolina at all. And the thing with South Carolina, you know, they need to stop thinking that they're going to beat every team. I'm not saying they're thinking that, but I just hope it's not in their mind where when they have these games that, oh, we're going to beat them, we're not going to worry about it. They cannot think like that all the time, because UCLA was an example. UCLA came ready to play yesterday. And then from what I was seeing, you have Kiki Rice. She's doing all these backward layups. Then you got the whole team UCLA. They coming up with these backup plays. That's how they was beating South Carolina in the beginning. They were doing backup plays. You have Kiki Rice, on point, shooting her threes, playing the point, you know, playing like she a junior, senior. She came ready to play. So that was my first time actually seeing her play yesterday. Because I heard so much about her, so I was like, well, I need to see how this girl play. And she really impressed me yesterday. And then with the team, they was on point as far as, stopping Aaliyah Boston. That's what Stanford was trying to do. They were trying to stop Aaliyah Boston. At UCLA, they were really going at it with Aaliyah Boston. They were really like double teaming her, triple teaming her. So Aaliyah Boston kind of had it hard in the beginning. Then she stepped up maybe about the second half. She started making her points, but they was giving Aaliyah Boston a hard time. So when they give Aaliyah Boston a hard time, that's when, Camila Cardoso come in for that backup. Don does that. I noticed that if Aaliyah Boston having trouble and she getting trapped, she'll have Cardoso as the backup. I mean, which is a good plan because her and Cardoso, they're big players. Two tall, big players. So that's like a help for Aaliyah Boston in a way. And so another thing, as far as the point guard, now I'm talking about South Carolina. The point guard position for South Carolina, I think Raven Johnson's is supposed to be the point guard. I don't know how you feel, but I don't think she's ready to be the point guard for South Carolina. Don needs to have either Zaya Cook or Letitia Mead here as the point guards for right now. Either of them two. Because when I saw Raven Johnson play yesterday, it seemed like her game was off. I remember when Destiny Henderson was playing the point guard when she was on the team last year. Destiny Henderson knew how to play her point guard position. But Raven Johnson, I'm not saying she's a horrible, horrible player. I think she has a lot of work to do. She's still learning and she needs more practice. I think Letitia and Zaya Cook, I think they should be the point guards because they're more on point. They know how to hold the ball. They're very aware of what's going on around the court. And I think Raven is not at that level yet. She still needs more work. Because I did see that Don had her sitting down a lot. So that says a lot. If Don had her sitting down when she's supposed to be the main point guard on the court, but she's not on the court. So if she's sitting down on the sideline, then that says a lot. Because she had either Mihir playing the point, she had the other girl, Fletcher, playing the point sometime, or she'll have Zaya. So it was either one of them. So that's just how I feel, as far as who should be the point guard. And as far as South Carolina, I noticed in the beginning of the game, they were having too many turnovers. And with UCLA could have possibly won the game. I know South Carolina, they came back up strong toward the end. But I think what UCLA messed up on was there was a player on the team. And I have to get her name because it seemed like it was a lot of tall players on the court and she looked like she was the shortest. She's not a short player, but as far as height and concern, she was shorter than the other players. You compare her to the other players looked like they were much taller, like 6 feet level, when she could have been about maybe, I didn't check out her height to be honest, but I know they were so taller than her to the point where she trying to guard them and she couldn't guard them because they was shooting over her. Her name is Cameron Brown, if I didn't say her name. I'm not trying to repeat her name, but if I didn't say her name is Cameron Brown. And she guarding players that's about maybe 6'2". Like, for example, you have Camila Cardoso. I don't know how tall. I know she's a tall girl. So she could be about maybe 6'1", 6'2", maybe taller. I'm not sure, but I know she's tall. Cameron Brown, a few inches shorter than her. So I'm looking like, why is she guarding these big girls? And she, I thought it was kind of funny in a way. Because like me, I'm short. I'm 5'1". So if I'm trying to guard Camila Cardoso, that's not going to work. Camila Cardoso is going to block my shots. Or possibly if I go in the middle, she may possibly foul me, but most likely she'll block my shots. So that's how Cameron Brown was. She's shorter than all these tall players and they're shooting over her, scoring her points. So I'm wondering like, well, why would the coach keep her in? Knowing that all these players are bigger than her and they're shooting over her, she can't guard them. So the coach should have noticed that. Because when you have players on the court, you have to match with height. Like their opponents, you have to match them up with their opponents. Their opponents are big and tall, then the people you're putting in need to be that same height. Because if you're putting all these short people in with all these tall players, that's not going to work. Like for the center position, you have Aaliyah Boston in the center. So the coach did have someone guarding Aaliyah that was about Aaliyah's height. I can't remember her name. I didn't get the girl's name, but I know she fouled out. But that's an example. The girl is about Aaliyah's height and she was guarding her. So you have to match the opponents with each other. And there was something else I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about Dawn Staley. Now, Dawn Staley, she looked like she was pissed as to, like she was just, it just seemed like she was cussing somebody out or cussing one of her players out because they wasn't doing right on the court. And you know when Dawn Staley get mad, That's it. But you know, it's probably none of them when she gets mad at them because they know how she is, so it's probably no big deal to them. But Don does not be playing with them, especially when she see that they're about to lose. And that's all I want to say. Oh, it's another thing. I want to talk about the player in South Carolina, Bree Bill. So I was watching the game, and Bree Bill looked like she was in another world. Like her game was off. It just seemed like her head wasn't in the game. So I'm looking at her like, what's up with her? Her game seemed off. She looked like she's not into playing. She in another world. And I'm sure Don noticed that because she took her out a few times. She was in and out the game. So Don probably saw like her head was in the game, but she was just lost. And that's all I want to say. University of South Carolina beat UCLA. I'm going to keep a lookout for UCLA. It looked like they have a good team going there. And that's all I want to say. Have a great day.